Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be discussing the Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru, so stay tuned. Okay. So, here we are, new year. Okay, so many of you who follow me on the live streams, Friday and Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you've heard me say that this year I'm planning to focus a bit more on my Norse practice and doing Norse videos. So I wanted to start this year by covering a book review because I've been getting a lot of questions about what books and materials I recommend. Now, many of you know I do recommend the Poetic Eddas and the Prose Eddas and the Havamal translations by Jackson Crawford. With that said, I get a lot of questions about a good book to get someone started in Asatru, heathenry, or just on the Norse path in general. Now, there are a lot of books out there, and I do mean a lot of them. Each of them have their own take, their own point of view. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are definitely very loose, freeform. So this has been a hard one for me, and I had to actually look at many of the books that I've read, and I had to narrow it down to one book. If I was to recommend one book to you to get, other than the Poetic Eddas and the Prose Eddas, which one would I recommend? And that one is The Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru. Okay, the author for this book is Patricia M. Lefevre. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. We'll go ahead and show her name real good there on camera. Now, is this the ultimate end-all be-all book to heathenism or Asatru? I really don't believe it is. That's personal opinion. But what I do love is it gives a very grounded, very simple to follow overview of the basic history and the gods and goddesses. So in part one of this book, what you're going to encounter is actually going to be the basic introduction to the history, as well as it's going to go into talking about the different gods and goddesses and some of the aspects and views that the author has on them. Including Loki, which she actually mentions that she sets Loki aside in this book, and we're going to get to that closer to the end of the video. You're also going to see many of the myths in part one. They're going to talk about some of those. In part one, they also go into ancestor worship, which is a huge part of Norse practice and heathenry. It is definitely an ancestor-style practice. It is one where you honor your ancestors. And they also speak about land wights, which are a form of land spirit. Some even compare them to the Fae. I go back and forth. I really don't want to say they're Fae-like creatures, but I do see the similarities, and I do think some of the creatures the Norse called land wights were indeed Fae, and I think some of them are more actual nature spirits in and of themselves, which there is a difference. Now, in part two of this book, it's going to go into covering some of the rituals of the practice, such as the bloat rite. And it's going to show you different styles of bloat rites that you can do, and it gives examples. Now, this is the big one. A lot of people have trouble with this book. Some of these rituals are very, very ceremonial build. They're very intricate. Some of them's even simpler. And you'll quickly notice the rituals don't line up. They're not a cookie cutter style ritual that you can just interchange. And that is deliberate because they're trying to show you examples of ways you can write these rituals, not ways that it has to be done. This is teaching you to build your own practice, which is why I love this book so much. It actually does help you to understand how to build your own rituals for your own personal practice, not to need a massive group or another teacher or someone to constantly tell you, no, you're doing the ritual wrong, it has to be done like this. This is giving you information and ideals to build your own ritual and your own practice, while at the same time showing you how to honor and respect the entities and the traditions of the Norse people. And that is a tremendous value. And really, this is the single book that I found that really allows that teaching of how to build the rituals and respect the entities without giving you a super rigid structure. Now, it will go over solitary and group rituals. So whether you're a solitary practitioner or you work in a group, it will talk about both styles. One weak point for this book, in my personal opinion, is it does seem to lean more toward group work and less to the solitary. When it is true, many Norse practitioners, Heathen and Asatru people, prefer to work in groups, as it is kind of a, family sort of ideology. But in my experience, most of those practitioners are actually solitary. Most of them don't get the benefits of a group, whether it's by choice or they just don't live in an area where there's another group. I really think this book could have done well to go much deeper into solitary practice. But again, use your brain. The rituals from the group rituals and the examples given from the solitary rituals can all be used together to build your own solitary rituals very, very easy. Also in part 2, they will start to talk about how to do different practices, celebrations for the solstices and stuff like that. If I recall correctly, there's the Holy Tides, the Yule. I believe, let me double check. Yes, there's even sample rituals in here for weddings and divorces in the Norse tradition. So this is a pretty complete book, including funerals and other rites that you may encounter in the lifetime of your family and your practice. So this really does give you a good starting base outline to build your practice on. Now, this is more of the rituals and less of the magic. That is something that should be pointed out. But they do still talk about rune magic and seed magic in here quite a bit as well. So yeah, hands down, this is my go-to recommended book for anyone interested in heathenry, Asatru, or Norse practice, because regardless of what your goals is, this will give you a framework to build on. And remember, here on this channel, we love frameworks, because with a solid framework, you can customize and build your practice and walk your path in the truest way that best benefits you, while still maintaining a true respect and honor of the entities you're working with. And that is something far too many people this day and age forget. In order to craft a path that they feel is theirs, they forget to respect and honor the very entities they're working with, and that'll get you in trouble. Now, Loki, my big beef with this book. And honestly, this is one of those things where you're going to run into this in all Norse practice. One of the chapters in this book is called The Problem with Loki. And I will say that reading this over and over, which I recently read it again just to make sure, it does come off very negative toward Loki. And they do paint him as a villain or adversarial figure. And I do greatly, greatly disagree with that. Because every time I read through the Eddas, I see Loki and Odin very much working together to keep things moving in the direction it needs to go, actually to get to Ragnarok. A lot of people see Odin as trying to prevent Ragnarok. You do see this in a lot of the other gods. But every action Odin takes, in hindsight, really pushes them closer and closer to that. And Loki plays a pivotal role in that. It's almost like these two gods know that that cycle must continue. because a lot of people think Ragnarok's the end of all things. But in the Poetic Eddas, you see that there's a rebirth of the world and the gates of hell opening up, and those who have died coming back to the world as it is renewed and reborn. And we also know from the Eddas that when the gods die, they too themselves go to Helheim. Therefore, when those gates are open, the gods themselves are reborn. And this is the big key point, I think. I do see Loki as a pivotal figure in that natural cycle. I do not see him as a villain. I know a lot of people refer to him as a god of chaos. He is more mischievous, he is more of a trickster, and he is more of a god of fire. He is a god of creation. Anytime he causes trouble in the Eddas, you will notice that the gods benefit from the problems he creates, because those problems, that strife, creates a growth, a change that ultimately benefits the gods in the long run. With the exception of the Lokasana, which I find personally to be a very, very interesting writing, and I actually want to do a whole video on that to break down my personal thoughts on it. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, and that's fine. I actually know people who like Loki because they view him as the villain or adversarial figure, and they want to latch onto that. But I just still don't see him that way. I apologize. And for those who just want to see him as the Norse version of the devil, you couldn't be more further from the truth. The Norse don't have that concept of that ultimate evil being. So Loki is a very complex figure that I do want to do more videos on. We've done at least one video on Loki here on this channel. But he is an entity I love to work with and I love to talk about, and I hope to get to do more videos on him, perhaps even going over the chapter in this book at some point. But I do definitely plan to cover the Lokasana and Ragnarok here on the channel when I get the chance. Like I said, we got a lot more Norse videos coming as the year goes on. We've spent a lot of time doing dragon magic videos. We got a lot of dragon magic videos going. We will still be producing more of those, don't worry. But I will be focusing my personal practice a lot in Norse magic this year. Me and Odin's got a lot planned, and because of that, I really feel a push to share the Norse information on the channel more. We've shared a little here and there, but I really want to dive deeper and get more content on the channel. So look forward to that this year. Now, I'll make sure there's links to the Poetic Eddas and the Prose Eddas by Jackson Crawford, as well as the Have 'Em All, linked below this video. And I'm also going to make sure that there is a link to this book. Again, it's the Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru. For some reason, I have a trouble remembering the title, the way the cover's done. I always just call it the Asatru book, and everyone who goes to my bookshelf grabs it. They know what it is. So the way the title's been really small, I tend to keep forgetting the full title of it, and I apologize for that. But Patricia did a wonderful job with this book. This is not a new book. If anyone is wondering, this is not a new book. I do not know when this book first came out. According to this, I don't know if this is accurate, but if I'm reading it right, the first printing was in 2013. I don't remember when I got my copy. It was a gift. It might have been near that, actually, weirdly enough. But yeah, I do highly recommend this for someone wanting to get into a Norse practice. The information in it is very, very helpful. Also, if you haven't already, we do have a rune class playlist here on the channel. Go over to the playlist, check that out. We're still posting some of the classes to the playlist as of the recording of this video. But there's already 4 or 5 lessons up there. And it will be a complete rune magic and rune working class by the time it's done. So keep an eye out looking for the continual lessons on that this year. And if you haven't already, get started on that, because runes are an integral part of a Norse practice. And if you're interested in working with the Norse, you really should look into the runes. And I think you'll really enjoy them as well as the class. It's an absolutely free class in the playlist, no charge. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this quick and simple review on A Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru. And I'm Drake, and this has been Working Dragon Mystic. Be sure to check the book out, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.